Okay, and the name of the person being interviewed is Arthur Walker. And Arthur, what is your birth date and current address?
March 7th, 1940. Current address is 2414 Oak Drive, Fort Pierce, Florida, 34949.
Okay. And the people attending the interview are myself, Carlton Cartwright, the Executive Director of the Children's Coalition Incorporated, and
Morgan Mitchell.
Morgan Mitchell. Okay. What war or wars and branch of service did you serve in? Arthur.
Technically, I didn't serve in a war, but one might say that service in the Kingdom of Laos in 61 and 62 was the forerunner of the Vietnam War.
Okay. And what was your rank?
My rank was sergeant.
Okay. Okay, were you drafted or enlisted?
Enlisted.
Where were you living at the time?
West Palm Beach, Florida.
Okay, and why did you join?
It just seemed like the thing to do.
Why did you, what service branch again?
Army.
And why did you join the Army?
Seemed like the thing to do.
Okay. Do you recall your first days in service?
Yes.
Can you tell us about them? What did it feel like? What was boot camp? What was your training experience like? Do you remember your instructors? You know, stuff like that.
Not necessarily instructors, but I vividly remember some of the early basic training and infantry training. For example, later on and even today, I remember what's very important as a communication sergeant. As a private, they taught us the 3 C's of message writing: clear, complete, and concise.
Okay.
And it works.
Well, tell us about basic training. Tell us about it.
It was just normal basic training like everybody does. Bang, bang, you know, march, nothing fancy.
Okay. Where was it?
Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. And where did you go? Where were you? Okay. You said you were living in Florida.
Correct.
Where?
West Palm Beach.
Okay. And so, how did you get to Fort Jackson? Where did you go to enlist?
West Palm Beach, Florida.
Okay.
And then we took a bus to the Miami post office.
All right.
And then a train.
To
Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
Okay. All right. And how long were you there?
I guess about 6-8 weeks.
Mm-hmm. And was it just basic training or tech school or?
Basic training.
Okay. And where did you go for your tech school?
The tech school was advanced infantry training at Fort Benning, Georgia.
Okay. And how long were you there?
I guess 6 or 8 weeks.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And where did you go when you left there?
Went to the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg and went to jump school and then to the 505th Parachute Infantry of the 82nd.
Gotcha. What year was this?
It was the latter part of 1958.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. So you were in Laos, and that wasn't the. Was there any engagement then? No, there was no. I mean, as far as war was concerned. Korean War?
Not in Laos. It was unofficial.
Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. Where exactly did you go?
Our team was deployed into the mountains at a place called Pakao, where General Vong Pao Mong had a refugee camp.
What was it like arriving? Well, first of all, okay, from Fort Benning, Georgia. Where'd you go from there?
Okay, from Fort Benning, went to jump school at Fort Bragg.
Okay, in the Carolinas.
In the Carolinas, and we were in the 505.
All right.
And that was in the latter part of 1958. In January 1959, they put the entire 505 on a ship.
Mm-hmm.
We took off the 82nd Airborne patch and sewed on the 8th Division patch with an airborne tab.
Right.
And we went to Germany for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
After 2 years, about Christmas of 1960, I had orders back to the States, and I had orders to report to the 101st Airborne Division in Fort Campbell. And by this time, I had become a sergeant. And so I got to fly back this time instead of being on the ship, which was pretty nice. And so I think it was McGuire Air Base or someplace in New Jersey. And in those days, if you were in uniform and stuck out your thumb, you could get a ride anywhere. So my first ride was with a trucker who was a World War II veteran, and I told him I was going to go to West Palm Beach on leave, see my folks, and then go to Fort Campbell, but I really didn't want to go to the 101st. So he said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I heard about Special Forces. I'd like to see if I can get in there in Fort Bragg. He said, why don't you just go ask him? And it seemed like a good idea at the time. So he dropped me off, and I went into headquarters Special Forces, and for lack of a better opening statement, I said, can I stay with you guys? And I guess they thought it was kind of humorous. So the sergeant told me to give him a copy of my orders and go see my folks and sit tight. So then it was Christmas and stuff like that, and I was getting a little bit antsy because I thought maybe I was AWOL.
Right.
Cutting it kind of close. And I remember this vividly. At 4:10 p.m., New Year's Eve, 1960, the Western Union bicycle dropped his bicycle in the front yard, came up to the door, and handed me a telegram. And you know the one with the little strips on it.
Yeah.
And of which I still have the telegram. And
Okay.
In fact, I have a copy of it. The telegram says something like, to Commanding General 3rd Army, 18th Airborne Corps, everybody else in the world, necessary orders have been issued per your direction, diverting Sergeant Walker, as ordered. Signed, Commanding General 101st Airborne Division. So I really never went there. So I guess I spent the time sewing on that patch. I was going to be ready when I was there, but I never went.
Right.
And so here I am in Special Forces, and began the Special Forces training. Went to a commo school down in Fort Gordon, Georgia.
Right.
This and that and the other thing. And in those days, they didn't have what they called training group. The training was more in-house. And Special Forces was relatively small. There are only 3 groups, 1st, 7th, and 10th, which was about 1,200 people. And unbeknownst to me, because it was not spoken of, is that there was a mission called Operation White Star in the Kingdom of Laos. And so you'd see people coming in, and they'd move into your barracks, and then other people would leave and be gone, but nobody said anything. So one day, at that time, I was an assistant instructor in a class of long-range patrol, and I got orders to go over to the orderly room, and Sergeant Major said I was to be interviewed to go on a team. So I was interviewed, and it ended up the team sergeant was Dick Meadows, and so I was told essentially that I was selected for a team, and in 3 days we left in civilian attire and flew from place to place to place till we arrived in Bangkok, and that was on military aircraft. And then once in Bangkok, we got into an unmarked airplane that belonged to Air America, and we flew into Vientiane, which is the capital city of Laos. And we went to a safe house, stayed overnight, stored some of our stuff in the safe house, which was, you might say, the permanent station, like in a regular building. And the next morning, we boarded some Air America unmarked helicopters and went up north into the mountains at Pakao to train the Hmong tribes.
Right.
And we were there for some months. Obviously no roads, water, electricity, et cetera. And then, around Christmas, it was determined that a new camp needed to be established with some more Hmong people. So by that time, we had some added people, and we almost became full strength with about 12 soldiers. So at that time, we split off into another 6-man team. The original 6 were then sent from the established camp at Pukao to a place called Mong Am. And so we were there from Christmas to, I guess, about spring. And at that time, we were relieved by a team from the first group and came back to the States.
Okay. So what'd you do after that?
Well, I got out of the Army in June '62
Uh-huh.
and went around, because I was married at the time, my spouse didn't want me to stay in the military, although I wanted to be in a military career.
Mm-hmm.
So to appease her, I stopped my military career, which is probably the wrong thing, because after a few years she left anyway. I probably should have bought her a motorhome, like with Greyhound on the side.
Yeah.
You know, a long time ago. But so anyway, I'm beating on doors and stuff like that. And during that time, it wasn't really the Vietnam War, and so it wasn't like you coming back and, oh, you could be a cop or a fireman or this and that.
Right.
Because first of all, oh, where were you? Can't tell you. So it wasn't really, because we weren't really in Laos.
Uh-huh.
So we're not there as a military unit. We were there sort of working for the company, the agency.
Right.
And so they said, what are your skills? And I sort of told them, and they said, well, we don't have any need for any of that stuff. So finally I got a job with Florida Power and Light as a meter reader. And so the guys that were my bosses, the week before I would have had them doing push-ups, but I guess now the role changed, it reversed. So I started taking correspondence courses under the GI Bill.
Uh-huh.
And over a 32-year career, worked my way up to field engineer. So then I took the opportunity of an early retirement buyout, and then a couple of days later, Florida Power and Light asked me to do some engineering projects, different places around the state as a consultant, as a contractor. And so since that time, and that was in 1995,
Mm-hmm.
and from 1995 now to date, I do contract engineering and special projects for companies as far away as Nova Scotia, and whether it's power line engineering, telephone, cable, or field surveys, or anything of that nature, on an on-call basis.
Right.
And when I'm in between assignments, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
I'm working with the Special Forces Association as a recruiter and a fundraiser for Wounded Warrior projects and such as that.
Uh-huh. Okay. So, did you see any combat?
No,
Okay.
not in that sense of the word.
Can you talk about the sense of the word that you're sort of referring to, or?
Well, if there was some incoming, I presume it was intentional.
Gonna make me cry. Okay.
Well, I mean, well, there was,
Were there any casualties in your unit?
my demo sergeant was killed 28 January 62, but not by hostile fire.
Okay.
What had happened, he was a good demo man, and he was teaching, so I was teaching machine gun classes down in one valley, and he was in the adjacent valley teaching improvised demolitions.
Right.
And he had some 3.5 rounds but no rocket launcher, and he was showing his Tahans how to electrically detonate them. What he did is he got them under cover as he touched the wires together to detonate, but just at the time he did, for whatever reason, he raised up to see the explosion, and the shrapnel hit him right in the heart, so he was gone in about a minute. And that's about that. Actually, in a sense, though, medevac had not yet been invented, so if he was seriously wounded as opposed to killed, it would probably work out the same way.
Okay. So you weren't a prisoner, were you a prisoner of war?
No.
Okay. Okay. Were you awarded any medals or citations?
No,
Okay.
because we sort of weren't there.
I'm getting the big picture. Were you involved in any battle planning?
Not per se. Our Hmong Rangers at one time, there was a probe to retake Padang, because prior to being at Pakao, the Von Pau's forces and the parts of the SF team had been overrun at Padang, and that's how they ended up at Pakao. So I guess around Christmas of '61, there was a probe to retake Padang, but there were some Hmong casualties, and there were no American casualties, because you might say, in a sense of the word, the Americans were not participating, sort of.
Okay. All right.
So basically, what we were doing, we were training them to be soldiers and guiding them. It was a training type thing. But so it's kind of hard to explain. It's like if for many miles in all directions it was the path at Lao, and on this mountain was those forces friendly to the Royal Lao government, which happened to be the Hmong tribes, that I guess you're in hostile territory. It was sort of like, if you picture a donut was the bad guys and we were the whole. So I guess one could say it was a hostile environment. In other words, they didn't like us.
The Hmong?
No, the Hmong were the good guys.
Right.
Here's where it is. The Lao, the kingdom of Laos.
The Laotians.
The Laotians. There were the Laotians, and there was the Laotian government. Okay, then there were the Path at Lao, were the communist forces, the bad guys. The Hmong in the mountains, which are very tribal. They're actually Tibetan Chinese. They came down from the mountains. They were loyal to the Royal Laotian government. But they weren't sort of in the Royal Laotian army, because these were hill people. In other words, like say for example, at that point in time, an adult Hmong Tahan, which is a soldier, may have never seen a vehicle, but they've seen a helicopter.
Okay.
They have never seen a light bulb, but they saw a transistor radio. So the Lao government said, well, this is a resource for us, so we need to train them if they want to help us out. And at that time, Air America was dropping some leaflets, which I still have, that were, asking the Hmong tribesmen to become soldiers and help the government's cause.
The Laotian government.
The Laotian government. The legitimate government.
Right. Okay. Besides that one demolition individual, was there anyone else that got injured?
Not on my team.
Okay. How did you, while you were overseas in the military, how did you stay in touch with your family?
Letter.
Okay. Was it frequent? Was there high frequency? Was there?
Um, Probably not necessarily high frequency,
Okay.
although we did have mail. I mean, it wasn't like a mailman. I mean, maybe a couple weeks
Right.
a chopper would come in and would have some mail
Right.
to an APO that we would get.
Right. How was the food?
Well, it wasn't too bad. We had rice on rice. And if you seriously with the Hmong, basically the resupplies because you couldn't afford to waste parachutes for stuff like rice.
Right.
So if you ever saw the movie Air America with Mel Gibson,
Right.
the way the rice was delivered to the Hmong, it was on Air America C-46s unmarked, and they would fly through the mountains, and the bad guys would try to disable their flight. And when they'd get near our camp, it wasn't like there was a landing strip. And so what would happen? They were Siamese bundle kickers. What it was is it was like about a 4 foot by 4 foot square hunk of plywood,
Right.
about 3/4 inch. And on it would be bags of rice, triple bagged, 100-pound bags of rice. And they'd be stacked on this pallet, probably about 4 feet high. And so there's these pallets. And when they'd come over our location, okay, on sort of a when they could basis, the bundle kickers would slide this pallet out on rails. And as it started dropping down and spinning, the straps holding it would purposely fall away. And the hunk of plywood would be like a giant frisbee going in one direction, and there'd be a whole lot of 100-pound bags of rice going sort of everywhere. And probably the best thing to do would be to find a tree and hug it. On one occasion at Pakal, my hut and my radio got smashed up pretty good because it took a direct hit by about a half a dozen 100-pound bags of rice. The good news is I was outside hugging this tree. That's why I don't understand when they started, I guess in the 70s, talking about tree huggers. I thought they were talking about me. So
I thought they found out about your secret, huh?
yeah, they thought they found the secret. Yeah.
Okay. Did you have plenty of supplies where you at? You know, besides the rice issue.
We usually probably at least once a week Air America could get into us with a helicopter, and it was kind of weird because they were based out of Udorn, Thailand, and
You what?
they were based out of Udorn, Thailand,
Okay.
and also out of Vientiane, Laos.
Uh-huh.
And I guess I'm told what they would do, I guess there was some kind of an American commissary, so we could actually have a shopping list, if you will, and the Air America pilots would get it to somebody that would go shopping for us and such as that, and we would get supplies that way. So we did have some American supplies. Obviously, we didn't have a refrigerator, ice, or anything like that, but it was on a pretty regular basis. But see, the funny thing is that we were essentially on per diem, but with no stores. So it was kind of, everything was written down in a little book.
Right.
And since we weren't there as a military unit, our per diem was supposedly to pay for your own lodging and food.
Right.
Well, so with the Hmong, oh, hey man, how'd you like to live over there? Oh, okay, cool. You want a hut? Chop, chop. Okay, here's a hut. So that took care of the living expenses.
Right.
And for the most part, we ate with them.
Okay.
And so I mean, there wasn't any mess hall.
Right.
And we were not there as a military unit.
Mm-hmm.
It was sort of like going TDY someplace, like you go into some town where there's not a military base. So, okay, here's so many dollars a day,
Right.
and find your own hotel, find your own food, this and that and the other thing. Well, since there was no hotel, bars, all the good things in life, but they didn't actually give us the money, because what are you going to do with it? Like with the Hmong, like say, oh, I got $20 and you wanted to buy something from a Hmong, what are they going to do with it? But by the same token, they didn't really have a whole lot you'd want to buy, because they didn't have anything. You know, it was basically, we got to understand, this is refugee people. These are nomadic tribes from Tibet.
Okay.
And they're sort of, well, they do establish camps in valleys and stuff like that. Typically, they have a pot, and everybody's got a spoon.
Right.
That type of thing. So,
Okay.
so they didn't have a lot of stuff, and they didn't have a lot of need.
So you got your per diem, but you didn't spend it.
That's correct. Well, we spent it from the standpoint that somebody had to ultimately pay the chit of where at some embassy someplace American food was purchased, and so there was some settling up to do.
Okay.
But we didn't carry money,
Uh-huh.
because downtown was that tree.
I think I got the big picture here.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Did you feel pressure or stress?
Hell yes. Sorry.
That's okay. What was the root or the why what was stressful?
Well,
What was the stress related to?
well, the stress related to
Or the pressure?
Well, the pressure related to was every now and then, not too often, but every now and then you'd hear some gunfire, and I didn't know what their hunting season was, but I didn't think it was any deer hunters. And the idea was, it's not like calling in for an extraction helicopter, I mean, well, first of all, we didn't have voice radios. That's why they called me Sparky. I had the key, and usually it was the demo man. Okay, start cranking. We got to send a message. And so the idea was, here we are. I knew where we were. Ironically, if you want to go into history, we weren't that far from Dien Bien Phu, and that's where the French Foreign Legion got their butt kicked. And I didn't want to do a reenactment, of course.
Right.
And so at Xing Quang by the Plain de Jars was like over the hill, and so Xing Quang, that whole area, it was, if you can visualize, like say, I don't know, say you're sort of in Orlando, and say for maybe many, many miles in every direction it's all bad guys, and so you kind of like sitting there in your little thatched timeshare,
Uh-huh.
And, so I guess the tension was, that, at least in my mind, is if you got seriously hurt, by the time somebody could come and get you, it would be a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, then the other thing is, if there was thousands of them, 6 of you, and some maybe 100-man ranger company of Tahans, we felt fairly well trained, but I mean, so in other words, I guess what I'm saying is, if they really didn't want us to be there, they could have us not there.
Right. There were thousands of who? Hmongs?
Communists,
Communists.
Pathet Lao.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And so it was kind of strange.
How many Hmongs were there?
At our location,
Mhm.
that last location, probably about 100.
Okay.
And they also, like when we moved to Mongom, we got there, and so we needed a place to sleep. So the Hmong who were already there helped us build our huts, our 2-man huts with resupply parachutes.
Uh-huh.
And you know, and whatever else they had around. So it was just kind of the idea that you weren't in a friendly place. You know.
Okay. Did you do anything for good luck? Did you need any good luck?
I guess probably so. Well, you gotta understand, see, my daily routine was, obviously, we had a certain time that we would communicate to our next headquarters what was going on, and everything had to be encoded.
Right.
And such as that, and then you gotta get somebody to to crank the generator, and you send it and this and that. Okay, so I did that, sort of a daily report, if you will.
Uh-huh.
And then depending on where we were, and then I would like maybe I'd be doing a class on machine gun, so I'd have my machine gunners, and we'd go down over here, and you know I'd train them in the machine gun and all that.
Right.
And then at other times I might be helping out with something else, and then you know maybe midday at a prearranged time, you know, send a message. And because they had no they had no written language, one of the things that seemed like a good idea at the time was to phoneticize the Hmong language. So, which I was since I was needed to be by the radio on a regular basis. The Vong Pao's, some of the ladies were through a pair of interpreter were helping me phoneticize the language, of course, which I still have.
Right.
And that was pretty much the routine. I mean, it wasn't like you know, what are you going to do at night? Well, it's dark. What can you do at night?
Right.
You don't have to turn out the lights because they're already out.
Right.
So the day was kind of funny, you know. You got up at daylight, and you knocked it off when the sun went down. So that was pretty much it. And I mean, so there wasn't any town to go to. I guess the good news is when we one of the bad things was that on our team we were very limited, even though Special Forces is cross-trained, the team was rapidly assembled. So in theory, once every month or two, we were to take turns flying out on the Air America helicopter, and sometimes they'd have some sick and wounded or whatever, to go to Vientiane at the safe house, because they had running water and stuff like that. So the whole idea was maybe every 30 or 60 days, you would get to go there, you know, where they had running water, and you could take a shower and stuff like that, which was not possible where we were. I mean, there was a stream about a half a mile away, but that was it. So, but what had happened, because I was the only like fully qualified radio person, I was asked by the boss, like, you know, we're kind of in a bind here, and you know, things were kind of hectic sometimes, because we thought maybe like the bad guys are coming. So he said, I don't want somebody that, you know, is very unsure of the radio. So would you mind, you know, deferring your R&R? So I said, okay. So I think I was. It probably was about 3 or 4 months before I got off that mountain to go, you know, get cleaned up and stuff like that, you know. But you know, you know, you get used to it.
Right.
But ironically, if I stop and think about it today, I got up and shaved. I got up and shaved this morning, and here I am. I have the water running. Even more horrible than that is that I had the hot water running. Now, come on, how soon we forget? Because the way it was, the stream is about a half a mile down the hill. And so you bring a container of water, taking turns, and like, this is the water
Right.
for drinking, bathing, or whatever, okay? Now, and once this couple gallons or 5 gallons of water is gone,
Uh-huh.
somebody's gotta go get some more.
Right.
And so, you know,
Uh-huh.
like, okay, here's a shot glass of water shave, you know? And
Right.
so I'm gonna stop and think about it, I feel guilty about just running that water.
Mhm.
So that's a funny, that's funny.
Nothing to take for granted, huh?
Yeah, that's funny, so, anyway. And as far as, this is so funny, I get to call the electric company and come, which I work for.
Right.
I'm gonna call and complain, cause the lights are out for an hour. Hey, come on, our lights were out for 6 months.
I hear you.
Yeah, so,
Okay, was there any place where you were able to go while you were over there for entertainment, to see entertainers or anything like that?
I guess if you were sort of in a town or something like that, there were, I guess you would call it, rear headquarters type of things. And a lot of the special forces teams were there, like where there might be, say, a Royal Ocean Army camp, say in Savannah Cat or Long Prabang or Vientiane or something like that. But you have to remember, we were up in the middle of the boonies. And I would say the nearest town probably could have been something on the order of 10 or 15 miles,
Okay.
but it was Xing Quang. And it was all Pathet Lao.
The communists.
The communists.
Right. So you didn't want to go there.
I guess we could have, but I didn't know I don't know if they would accept this in open arms. You know?
Right.
But so that's pretty much the way it was. In other words, for all intents and purposes, once we were deployed, we were deployed.
Mm-hmm.
So you just didn't, you know. And there were only, I think, 4 or 5 locations that were in that situation. But the good news was that we couldn't be bad boys, as far as they weren't like the infamous bars of the Orient and all that kind of stuff. I mean, GI towns and bars and this and that and the other thing, it just wasn't existent.
Right.
And as far as, I guess, as far as mingling, if you will, with the native women,
Right.
the ratio of the native guys, okay, in other words, let's do the math. At Pacau, there's 6 of us and a few thousand of them. And you get to mess around with one of their girls?
Yeah, I hear you.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay. And but as a matter of fact, Salpua's necklace, when she gave it to me, like she kind of whipped it on me one day, you know, and she started, when I first started, about a month after I was writing in this language, you know, what I didn't realize, these were her ladies in waiting, you know.
Oh.
And they'd come over to my hut there, you know, and stuff, and they'd hang out, and we'd do the interpreter stuff, and I can't sing, but, you know, she would sing real weird, like, Ni ai lua ling tu. Anyway, hey, nice song. But I guess it was kind of a love song. I didn't know at the time. So then when she whipped the necklace on me,
Oh.
the interpreter goes, kind of like, in Lao, he was kind of, okay, wait a minute. And they'll get off the French, they're gone, you know, I mean, and so anyway, I'm kind of figuring out like, oh, maybe this is like cozier than I thought it was.
Courting?
Yeah. So, so then our team commander, team commander says, hey, listen, I don't think this is looking too good. Cause like,
Are you trying to tell me that there was a transaction going on that you weren't aware of?
it appeared sort of to be, and
Okay.
I never did, quite figure out what happened, but
Yeah.
that was Vong Pao, you know?
Uh-huh.
I mean, Vong Pao was the chieftain, you know?
Right.
And that was like, and then around Christmas, when we got some more guys, and so now we were like full strength, woo-hoo, we got 12 people. They wanted to split off and go to another place,
Yeah.
and they wanted a real good radio person. And I don't know if this is true or not, but the word on the street, or we didn't have streets, but
Yeah.
the word was that Vong Pao thought I would be a real good candidate to get out of Dodge,
To get out of the what?
to go on the other team far away.
Okay.
So I don't know if I got run out of Dodge or
Oh,
what.
right. Gotcha.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. He just seemed to have an attitude after I had that necklace.
Well, why? Because
So-
she had given you the necklace and she liked you?
Well, I think maybe it was sort of like, I think maybe she thought it was some kind of an engagement thing or something like
Right.
that, you know. So anyway, I forget how it kind of went down, but it was sort of like, I don't know, I guess I was recommended to go on the new team
Away.
away. And I'm feeling kind of a little bit antsy about all this. So the bottom line is this, is kind of a misunderstanding here, but you can keep the necklace. And so today it's at my house.
Gotcha.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Where did you go when you went on leave? Where did you? Okay, yeah. What did you do, or where did you go, and where did you travel while you were in the service?
Oh, okay.
You know, where'd you go when you went on leave, anyway?
Oh, okay, yeah. When I was in Germany,
Mhm.
obviously most of the guys in Germany, you know, you'd like to see some round doorknobs, and maybe talk to some English-speaking people.
Right.
So, for some reason, I wasn't on this. Let's go to Amsterdam, Wahoo, and you know, Gay Paris, and all that kind of stuff like that. So what I did, I guess after we were there about a little over a year, I'd become a sergeant by the time in a rifle company.
Right.
So I said, well, I think I'll burn up some leave. And there was a deal, I think, then that you could only accrue so many days leave and you had to do something with it. So
Okay.
other than maybe, well, I did some day trips, if you will, in Germany, but you have to understand, I was in a rifle company and a parachute regiment, so we spent a lot of time in the boonies, you know, or such as that, or we jumped into France a few times and such as that. But at any rate, when I first got my first real leave, I went to Wiesbaden Airfield, and there's something called space available. So I found out the ropes from the personnel there, and I said, oh, okay, I'd like space available. Well, where do you want to go? I don't care. And then so I hung around there, I guess, all day long. Went to NCO club and got a call, and they said, okay, we got a flight. So I went over there to wherever you go, and I said, where's he going? And they said, Keflavik, Iceland. I said, whoops, wait a minute, I changed my mind. Maybe I do want to be a little bit more specific.
Yeah.
So then they had one to Scotland.
Oh, okay.
So, and it was pretty neat. So I spent about a week in Scotland.
Okay.
And so actually I ran into a girl, and she took me home, and I stayed with her family and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
No hanky panky, but
Right.
you know. And well, I thought that was pretty neat over there because it's a time anyway. There was this place in a town called Ayr. It was called the Buck's Head Inn.
Mm-hmm.
And this girl, she worked in a shop on the High Street, and the High Street is like Main Street.
Okay.
I thought it was where you got high. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so I thought it was really funny because the Brits, they're never on vacation. They're on holiday.
Right.
And they said, what do you mean you're on holiday? You on vacation or what? You know,
Right.
No, it's holiday.
Mm-hmm.
So I did find out that I guess Scotland, Scots, I guess they know how to drink this. So anyway, I go to the Buxton Inn, and this guy said, hey, Yank, I was in uniform. Oh, Yank, I'm on holiday. I'd like to buy you a drink. Okay, sure. So they give me like a milk glass full of scotch. It about tore my head off.
Oh my God.
But then all of a sudden there was a little record player, sitting on the bar.
Uh-huh.
And all of a sudden somebody says constable. And all of a sudden he yanked it unplugged and put it under the bar.
Uh-huh.
I said, what's going on? And they said, well, here's the way it works. I don't know if it was a town deal or what, but about a block up the high street, there was a place called the Bobby Jones Dance Hall.
Uh-huh.
Upstairs it was a dance hall.
Right.
So you can't have booze where you have the dance hall. And you can't have dance hall where you have the booze.
Okay.
So it's kind of like play music till the constable comes. And then for some weird time, I think from 3 to 5 or something like that, no booze.
Okay.
I forgot what they called it, but I guess they call it the reverse of happy hour,
Right.
or tea time or something. So that was cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a nice time there. Other than that, I didn't really go too many places. Other than I went a lot of places, but it wasn't like on leave.
Okay. Well, where did you travel? Just go. Give me a list of the places that you traveled while you were in the service.
You mean as far as off duty?
Off and on.
Okay. Well, I guess in Europe it was, Germany, Mainz, Wiesbaden, Frankfurt, Bremerhaven, France. We went into France, jumped into France, Po, Hagenau, and then of course Scotland, and then as far as heading towards the Southeast Asia, Hawaii, Guam, Wake Island, the Philippines, Hong Kong.
Right.
Hong Kong, that was cool. And that's pretty much about it.
Okay. I take it you have a lot of photos from when you were in the military?
Not a lot.
Okay.
Probably, I don't know, maybe 20, 30.
What did you think of your officers? Were you an officer?
No.
Okay, or your fellow soldiers. And did you have a personal diary?
No, I didn't.
Okay, what did you think of your fellow soldiers, officers?
I was fortunate. The units I was in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as a matter of fact, the Army Special Forces
Yeah.
are referred to as the quiet professionals.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very fortunate because I almost felt like I was the mascot. It was just at this time, for example, when I was in the parachute regiments, literally most of the officers were World War II airborne combat veterans.
Uh-huh.
So they had jumped on D-Day and this and that and the other thing. So there was a whole bunch of experience and stuff like that. So the various units I was in, there were most of your officers and your senior NCOs were the battle-hardened veterans, if you will, and then of course Korean veterans, and then in Special Forces. Okay, at that point in time, anybody that was most people who were in Special Forces had spent some years. To get in Special Forces, when I did, you had to be on your second hitch, a sergeant or above, had to be coming from a parachute regiment, already parachute qualified, all the above.
Right.
So not only did my mentors I had to have that to even say, hi, can I come in the door? But my mentors were all mostly, seasoned from combat and Korea or whatever. And ironically, the team, for the first couple of months, my name on the team was Scotia. And at least it wasn't mascot. But then what happened was, then they picked it up Sparky because of the Morse code. But I guess what comes around goes around, because at the time I was thinking to myself, well, here I am on this team. I never even heard of Laos when I went to school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if I had written my folks where I was, which we weren't allowed to, they wouldn't have known where it was anyway.
Right.
So, but what was really funny, as we see, when we left Fort Bragg, they had given us some money to us to go downtown and buy a wash and wear suit. So from Fort Bragg all the way into Laos, even if we stopped at some air base and, here's these guys wash and wear suits getting off, oh, where are you going? You can't talk to them. Well, but I'm looking around, I'm saying, I don't know, in the units I've been in the past, like say your platoon sergeants and this and that, or maybe a company commander and stuff, like, they're older, but most of it, the lower ranks, you're younger guys, and here I am with these 6 or 7 guys. It's supposed to be a 12-man team, but there weren't enough people to go around.
Right.
And Captain Moon's team had basically been killed, and we just needed more people there. So essentially, in those days, if you were in Special Forces, you were going to end up in Laos. That's simple as that. Right. So, I mean, if you were chosen. So I'm thinking as we're going over there, I'm saying, wow, I don't know about this. I'm with these guys are really old. I wonder if they can cut it. I mean, some of these guys are pushing 30 years old.
Right.
Then they're old guys. So.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna work on the. Do you recall the days that your service ended? Where were you? And what did you do in the days and weeks afterwards?
Oh, as things wound down.
Yeah.
When we came back from Laos, they sort of cut us some slack, and I stuff like walking around with a clipboard, and then armed forces. See, Kennedy. Let me backtrack. President Kennedy authorized the Green Beret. The Army didn't want Special Forces to have the Green Beret. While I was in Laos, President Kennedy came to Fort Bragg in October of 1961, and he wanted to see Special Forces. That was going to be his boys, right? So General Yarborough, by the way, whose son is around in here today, and who has passed now, but General Yarborough, Kennedy said, they had some guys there, and they put on their unauthorized Green Berets, and so Kennedy, the story says to General Yarborough, yeah, you guys are doing a pretty good job, and you guys are on some missions that we won't talk about. And what can I do for you? What can I do for your guys? And Yarborough says, well, give them the Green Beret. So Kennedy says, okay, Army, they want a Green Beret. Okay, so I'm telling the Army at this level, you will authorize that to be part of Special Forces uniform.
Uh-huh.
So the funny part about it, and that's why mine says made in Toronto in 1961.
Right.
Because of the logistical problem. So I guess the Army, they go, okay, well, here's the deal. I want them to have berets now, and I want them dropped in Laos.
Uh-huh.
And everybody gets one, and the deal was, well, the Army, you gotta get bids and this and that and the other thing. So the way I understand the story is that Kennedy told them to crap some. That's why they were made in Toronto, because they weren't made for that.
Okay.
Anyway, so let's see.
Did you?
When I came back, what happened? So so our berets were delivered not on a parade ground. The Air America brought them into Laos, into Pakao. And so they were handed out to the 6 of us, or 7 at the time, or whatever it was. But anyway, so when I came back, obviously we got to go on leave for a while.
Right.
and then when I came back to Fort Bragg, I was gonna be getting out in June, so they were giving me rather menial things to do. And Armed Forces Day 1962, for whatever reason, President Kennedy wanted to see his Green Berets, because now this is before Barry Sadler and all that. So the detachment, the company that I was in, they wanted to put together 3 or 4 A teams to go and, you know, look good with all your stuff
Right.
at Andrews Air Force Base.
Uh-huh.
And the public generally hadn't seen Green Berets, you know. They probably thought we saw cookies or something. But anyway, so we jumped on a Caribou aircraft and we flew into Washington, and they billeted us at Anacostia Naval Station, which is where the Navy band is and all that stuff. And it was pretty cool. So we just stand around in all our gear and stuff like that at a hangar out at Andrews Air Force Base.
Uh-huh.
And all the hot shots and the dignitaries and all that kind of stuff would wander through and look at you. And we had, you know, static displays and stuff like that. We did that for I forget how long, but that was pretty neat duty because nobody bothered us. It was sort of like we were presidential, if you will.
Right.
And that's about it. And then I got out, like I said, and what had happened was then I took another leave and I arranged to have a job before I got out.
Okay.
Still didn't want to get out,
Right.
but spouse at the time, prior to me putting her on her dream motorhome, Greyhound Bus Company, prior to that event, you know, so I got a job. So I had the job lined up before I get out of service.
Right. Did you use your GI Bill?
Yes, I did.
Okay. What and for your education or?
For my education, yep, sure did. I used it all up. And since I was sort of having little kids at the time, I really couldn't go to a college and work. I mean, it just wasn't convenient. So, you know, international correspondence schools, I took electrical engineering for quite a few years.
Oh, okay.
The guys used to kid around about, they call it zip code U.
Uh-huh.
And some of the ones in engineering, as I was working my way up, some of the things were really classic. Well, some of the guys said, "Hey, did you guys hear that? Art got 5 points knocked off his final for using the wrong zip code."
Okay.
Yeah, or he got a D for insufficient postage.
All right. You obviously, I know that you joined this organization, the Veterans Organization. So your career after the war was with Florida Power and Light?
Yes.
Right. Okay. And did your military experience influence your thinking about war, about the military in general?
As in?
Period. Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or about the military in general?
Yeah, I'd say so. In other words, sometimes you do what you got to do.
Right.
That's it. I do know one thing is it helped me, I think, in a civilian environment, and sometimes it wasn't taken too well. In other words, if I'm from the old school, if you're given an assignment, you better get it done. Mm-hmm. And in my civilian career, I don't expect anything out of anybody that I don't expect out of myself. Mm-hmm. But if I have anything to do with it, and especially if it's a project that we've got multiple people working on this project and they're not cutting it, I'm going to snatch them by the stacking swivel, and that's it. I mean, nothing personal, but you know. And so it's kind of like, for example, I've had occasions on projects, and these are very good personal coworker friends,
right,
colleagues and stuff like that. So, an example, I was contracted as White Star to do a hot to go job, and for example, big street light job in Fort Myers. They had to have it this time frame, and so I mean it had to be. That's it.
Right.
So I hired, I guess, 3 or 4 guys to help me, and some of my good friends said, well, why didn't you hire me? I said, well, because like when the sun comes up, we're measuring poles, not after you have brunch. So that's it. I
Right.
mean, you know, well, yeah, but I'm your buddy. Yes, we are very good friends.
Right.
And because of that, I'm actually treating you better than the other guys. So what do you mean? Well, probably in a day or so, I would have to fire you. Absolutely. You know? So I'm giving you the option of that not happening. Whereas these other guys, I'm bringing them on so they get fired. I know you'd get fired, so I'm just saving you the grief.
Okay. Just in closing, Veterans Organization, what has been your experience, involvement in Special Forces Association?
Oh, it's pretty neat. First of all, the whole idea is, like with Special Forces Association, it's, you know, furthering the ideals and principles of the Special Forces Regiment. Boom, that says it all. But the mission, at least as I perceive it, and most people do, is it's not a bunch of good old boys drinking beers and telling war stories.
Right.
You have to do something, scholarship fund, this, that, the other thing, you know. So, I mean, there has to be a purpose. I mean, a lot of people think the veterans organizations of years gone by is just a bunch of good old boys. Well, sure, there's some of that, but that's really not the base purpose.
Uh-huh.
So, I feel most of the organizations that I'm affiliated with, they do that very thing. And a lot of people don't realize to the extent they do that, but they do. So that's, you mean as far as the experience of what they do and all that?
Well, yeah, like their activities and things.
Right, yeah.
I mean, so what is your involvement? How often do you come to reunions?
I try to come to reunions, you know, once a year, annual reunions, and then meetings of various sorts within organizations. I try to pretty much attend them, and being semi-retired really gives me the time to do that.
Right.
And
So you're active.
active, yes.
Okay, and you can go to the meetings throughout the year and
Right, exactly.
and come to reunions like this
Right.
on a yearly basis.
Right.
Okay. Is there anything else that I need to ask you, or anything else that you feel like you want to tell us?
No, I think that's about it.
Covered everything. Okay. Well, I want to thank you very much
Okay,
for your time.
okay,
Okay. Thanks, Art.
okay.
All right, man.
Now, I'm sure that you're gonna cut a lot of that out, right?